Welcome to Sliders and Wings, a podcast about the TV show Sliders.
And the TV show Wings.
And all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
I'm Valerie Temple.
And I'm Rachel Cox. How are you, Val?
Great.
I'm good. It's spring. I've got allergies. I had to take allergy medicine right before this, so I hope I don't get drowsy.
Oh, I hope not. No housekeeping at all. So
everything we said about Roar was on point.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
No complaints.
No complaints from us.
Today we're talking about Xena, Warrior Princess. And we have a special guest, Susie Underwood. Hello, Susie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You've got like a sexy kind of radio voice going on, so I like that.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can get picked up.
What is our personal history with this show?
That's right. Susie, tell us why you like Xena.
Well, I come from a pretty nerdy family. So, we're big fans of Conan, that whole saga, Red Sonja, what have you. So, of course, we also watched Hercules. And then I was very excited for Xena. I was a big fan of She-Ra as a child. So it was natural. There was no question that I was going to be watching some Xena. So I was right there, the target audience.
For me, I never watched Xena. It was always something that I sort of stumbled on because I kind of struggle with syndicated shows. Whenever they're on, when were they on? I don't they're not on NBC at 8:00. It was always on a strange time, and I'd always be flipping past, and I'd be like, what the hell is going on with this show?
That's a great question. Now, I was part of my personal history with the show was I don't think I really watched it when it first started airing. I watched it on the weekends because when I was in college, because I didn't have cable, and that was literally the only thing that was on in the afternoons that I would watch. And now I'm like, well, when was that when it aired?
Yeah.
3 p.m. on a Saturday?
Who knows? 3 p.m. on a Saturday. What a weird time. It just seemed like such a fever dream of a show. And we're watching it as well. You're just like, what? How is this? How did this ever air anywhere?
We think of syndication as being something aired on a network, and then later on they had enough episodes that it was in syndication. And so this was only syndicated, right?
Correct.
So that means every city was playing at different times.
They would produce these shows and then different stations would buy them. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I'm confused about the origin of this show because it was shot in New Zealand. It has New Zealand. The pilot has more than one New Zealand actor in it. And I just wonder, but then everybody sounds American. So I'm guessing.
Oh my God, no, they all sound like they're doing horrible American accents.
So according to my research, it's an American show. Americans made it, but they made it in New Zealand.
What I was surprised about, I'm looking on the Wikipedia, was I had the sense that Hercules was something that went on for a long time, and then came Xena. But what Wikipedia is telling me is that Xena premiered 6 months after Hercules did.
Are you kidding? What?
Yeah. So it only was, they must have all been in the works at the same time.
Xena was on Hercules. She had a 3-episode arc where she was a villain. And then by the 3rd episode, she's a hero. She's working with Hercules. And I guess she was so popular, but how would you even know in that short period of time how popular this character was? I don't know.
It just says the show is a spin-off of Hercules. The saga began with 3 episodes in Hercules where Xena was a recurring character originally scheduled to die in her 3rd appearance. Aware that the character of Xena had become very successful among the public.
How would they?
You can't see, guys, but I'm shrugging. The producers of the series decided to launch a spin-off series based on her adventures. Okay, so I wonder what that meant.
They probably just gathered in hordes around the studio or wrote letters. Maybe they were
right. Bring back Xena.
The series soared past its predecessor in ratings and popularity. In its 2nd season, it became the top-rated syndicated drama series on American television. And for all the 6 years it was on air, Xena remained in the top 5.
Xena is the most popular show we've done, although I feel the show itself is forgotten. I don't think people remember the show. They remember the character. They're oh, Xena. If you say Xena, people know what you mean. But I don't know if people would be able to tell you, recount an episode to you or tell you what an episode's like.
When I watched the pilot, my overwhelming feeling was just of sadness. It was so bad.
I don't remember this feeling like we're in a community theater set.
Okay, so I had a lot of fun watching this episode. It was pretty much the first full episode of Xena I have ever watched, because truly I have only flipped past it.
As we determined, you do not care for fantasy.
Yes, I don't care for fantasy. And then there was one time about a year ago where our friend Jason was telling us about how he had a very small baby and he was like up all night. He was like really weirdly obsessing about like downloading Christmas episodes of TV shows. You know, he's a Christmas king, our friend Jason. And he downloaded this really bizarre Xena episode about Christmas, but it's actually like called, like, it's about winter solstice, but it's about Christmas. And he was telling us about it, and we were like, well, bring it up, like show it to us. And we watched about 30 minutes of this episode, and it was just like the strangest episode of TV I have ever seen, because it's winter solstice, but also a Christmas carol, but also there's Santa Claus, but he's not called Santa Claus. He's called Santa Cleese because he's like Greek or whatever. And, you know, it's just like this really crazy mashup of like every kind of Christmas idea from like every culture. And then Jason like went to get something to drink from like the kitchen or something, came back. He had like pulled this up from his hard drive on his computer. So he's like playing it on his TV using a keyboard, comes back, accidentally sits on the keyboard. And then for some reason, the image flipped upside down on the TV and he couldn't fix it. So he was like, you get it. You get it. I was like, so that was as much Xena as I had ever watched. This was fun to me. I had a fun time watching it, but it is also garbage.
Xena has a really negative connotation to me because I watched it just, I mean, it is the kind of show where you don't really have to, there's almost no storyline really. So you don't really have to like watch them all to know what's going on.
Oh, no.
But I have a severe death anxiety.
Oh,
I mean, not severe, but I don't know what's normal. I have a death anxiety. I'm very, very scared of dying. And I was watching Xena one time at my parents' house, and I must have been college age. It was like 10 o'clock at night or something. And I was hit with this wave, overwhelming wave of, I'm going to die at some point, and this will all be over. And it was just this deep awareness of how intense that was. Like this deep, intense feeling of that I will die one day. And it just happened to happen when I was watching Xena. And literally, Xena is now associated with me with this awareness of my death anxiety and my mortality.
I had a similar experience while watching that Werner Herzog movie about caves. I went to the 3D viewing of it, and it was you're just inside caves, and it's three-dimensional, and you know, he's talking and the way he talks, and it just really took me over the edge.
You're like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die in this cave, and no one will find me.
I didn't even make it through the whole movie. I was like,
you had to leave? Oh God. Oh, that's horrible.
There was one plot line on Xena that I think I must have been watching that hooked me at one point that we were many years away from here in the pilot. But there's a plot line, and it's a very like a Rosemary's Baby thing where Gabrielle is pregnant with Hades' baby or some demon's baby. Very up my alley. I love a demon baby. And this is during when Gabrielle had that really horrible short haircut.
Oh yeah.
Oh. But I keep every once in a while I'm like, what happened with that baby?
Didn't Xena also have a baby at some point?
Before the time period of the show, because I did watch one Xena episode a few months ago with my son, and I grabbed one that was random. And she was going to visit the centaurs. If you want to see the bad effects, you've got to see the episode with the centaurs. That's horrible. But she had left her son Solon years ago. He was the son of another warlord who was dead. And he doesn't know that she's his mom, but she left him with the centaurs who have taken very, very good care of him.
It wasn't Draco?
I mean, Xena has slept her way through all of Greece. Like she's hit every warlord, so maybe.
I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, she is dressed so hot.
I don't find Lucy Lawless interesting or appealing or charismatic at all.
She's got great eyes to me.
I like her, yeah.
And I also think
Do you think the bangs are so anachronistic? They're such a heavy bang. They're such a clean, heavy bang.
Very heavy. Oh, did you also know that Lucy Lawless is a natural blonde?
That's why her eyes are interesting, because they're just so
It stands
as a
out.
blonde person. And she does dress like, I was actually, one of the notes that I was going to write that I was too lazy to was she is basically dressed like She-Ra.
Yeah, absolutely, like She-Ra.
I looked in, Xena had a second child. She was made pregnant through immaculate conception.
Lucy Lawless was probably pregnant during the airing because she married the producer of the show.
Yeah, she married the producer of the show. They're still married, so that's nice.
Boring.
I actually got kind of obsessed with Lucy Lawless's like backstory because like obviously Lawless is too good of a last name to be her original last name, you know. But her real name is Lucille Frances Ryan. But she didn't just like make up Lawless. Her first husband was named Garth Lawless. And I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Lucy Lawless is one of the greatest names in history, I think. I mean, like, just imagine an MMA fighter named Lucy Lawless. It's just like so good.
Maybe she just married him for the name. She got what she wanted. She got out.
That's right. I mean, you just have to do what you have to do. I mean, would she be famous if her name was Lucy Ryan? I don't think so. Lucy Lawless just like has that hook. Is it hook?
It sounds like somebody who should be on a crime show. Like she should have done at least 20 episodes of Law and Order by now.
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds like someone that, I mean, it does sound like someone who can really kick ass, which Xena does. Although, like, the action, like, the way that the action is, like, filmed in this Xena episode that we watch is, like, so silly. Everything's, like, happens so fast, and there's all these, like, hilarious sound effects happening.
The craziest part is in the end when she's just walking on people's heads.
Oh, yeah, that was my favorite part. I was like, oh, the final battle is the floor is lava. Like no, like it was like they're not supposed to hit the ground. I was like, oh, the floor is lava. The funniest part of the episode was all of the off-screen voices that were obviously added in post that were just like, never again, not this time, Xena. You know, like just like some guy, like you don't see him, but you just hear his voice, and he's just like, you can walk on my shoulders, Xena. And it was like not mixed very well, so you can really tell it's just like the same voice over and over again too.
It's just an extension of the extras, which are all super extras.
Oh yeah,
they're all like the guy at Subway.
There was a great scene when Xena comes back to her home village, and everyone there hates her, even her mother, because she had like typical bad girl ran off with a warlord.
Typical bad girl.
And everyone in her house, like everyone in her that she grew up with, was like, ew, we don't want you here anymore. You ran up with a warlord. And then she comes back and she's trying to like convince them all that she's good now, and she's trying to make amends. And they just have like random voices going, you know the way out. Get out of here, Xena. We don't like you. Xena, just leave.
Get out of here, Xena. Like just like we don't see them talk. We see one guy talk and like a bunch of people standing behind him, and then there's just a bunch of like off-camera people are like, we don't like you, Xena. So funny.
You know the way out.
See yourself out. Don't let the door hit you on the butt on the way out, Xena.
If you were a bystander in that final battle scene between Draco and Xena, and one of them just stood on your head, what would physically happen to you? Your neck would snap and you would buckle.
Yeah, I would
just walking on people's heads.
I would crumble to the ground and die. Like, I think one thing I like about Lucy Lawless is that she does look like physically she looks tough. She's not like a willowy, you know, like a model type. She looks like she can really like beat you up. I mean, maybe it's the costume. I don't know. She
looks tall, and I feel like
she's got power thighs. You know, she's got these like trunks. I don't know. I like it.
Now that I've seen that woman that's on The Mandalorian, she looks like a beast who can.
That's true.
Warlord, yeah.
Yeah, talk about it. Yeah, that's an actual MMA fighter instead of like an MMA fighter name. Lucy Lawless.
Although I think she got kicked off the show for being
terrible. Yeah.
MAGA lady. Not all beefcakes are beefcakes to be admired. Lawless. I think she's all right. I think as a human being, we can admire her.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. She's done some good stuff. I think she's like an environmentalist. She got like arrested for participating in some protests. She's kind of cool. So
I think everybody from New Zealand is an environmentalist.
I mean, wouldn't you want to preserve the gorgeousness that is New Zealand? It's just like, it looks like the holodeck on Star Trek, you know, or like Avatar, you know, it's just like, what is this like fantasy environment where everything is so green and filled with trees and just gorgeous?
And I can confirm, I actually did go to New Zealand when my mom lived there for a year. And I got tired of taking pictures of all the pretty scenery because it was like, well, it's just gorgeous. I'm surrounded by like a fantasy. I'm in Legend with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody there is kind of like, yeah, we'd rather keep it this way than, you know, like have a lot of money. Cool. There's people that feel that way.
It's so weird, right?
I think the best actress is Renee O'Connor, who plays Gabrielle. She's actually, I think, the most talented.
You do think Renee O'Connor's the most talented?
Yes.
I don't agree.
You think Xena is?
Yeah, I do. Renee O'Connor, okay. So I like Gabrielle. She had a whole journey, you know. She's like, I'm from this small town. I've got aspirations. She's like betrothed to some guy and she's like very feminist. She's like, just because I'm betrothed to you doesn't mean you can tell me what to do or whatever. And then she just like loves Xena. She like admires Xena. And so inspired by Xena, she like kind of goes on her own adventure. And so there's a lot of like comedy scenes where she's just like very talkative. Like there's one where she's lying in the middle of the road and like this old man, she needs a ride and she's trying to get a ride. So like her first tactic is just like lying in the middle of the road. And then the old man is just like, who cares? He literally is like, I don't care. And then she kind of like figures it out where she realizes that he'll give her a ride if she will listen to his boring stories. So she's like, oh yeah, I'll listen to anybody. And so I thought Gabrielle was good, but definitely her acting, I don't know. It definitely had a community theater vibe to me.
Yeah, the whole thing really did. I mean, except for Xena. Maybe it's also the pilot where she just had a lot of backstory to get taken care of.
For sure. Like it starts out with her burying her cool costume. And that lasts like 2 seconds. She's like, because it's like, it's all about Xena's redemption, or like she's decided she's no longer going to be this villain. She is changed somehow. We don't see that though. Like that's not how the story begins. We don't see her decision to change. She's kind of like riding a horse through like a ravaged village and she feels sad. She's like, oh, this is my fault kind of because I participated in like this kind of behavior. And so she's like, no more. But then she like pulls the costume back out in like 2 seconds. But like, it's sort of like she
buries it in a very shallow hole.
Very, very shallow. It really seems like I'm going to need this in 2 seconds. Like, I don't want to like put it under like 6 feet of earth because that'll just inconvenience me when I need this again, because I will.
It didn't feel like a very committed burial of her clothing.
It was almost like symbolic, like just telling the audience, okay, she is now good. I kept thinking about how Xena in Hercules was probably like Terminator 1, and Xena, her own show, is Terminator 2. So Xena is like the Terminator in Terminator 2 in that Linda Hamilton does not trust the Terminator in the second movie because he was so awful in the first one. So you have to like, Xena has to prove to everybody that she's a changed person.
I do also think that's a very reasonable suspicion. I mean, if she was a warlordess, like she's just going around murdering.
War lady.
She's a war lady. She's around murdering people. And then all of a sudden they're just supposed to be okay with it because she's going to like help stop murdering people. But
this is what actually really annoyed me about the show is this like Disneyfication of what is essentially like Game of Thrones. Like,
yes, exactly.
there are what is boiling under the surface here is child murder and rape and starvation and decapitation and evisceration and being drawn and quartered and hanging people and slaughtering people. And it is never merely mentioned or shown. Like everyone's just like, I'm about to punch you. Oh, or I'm gonna step on your toes, or I'm gonna like poke my fingers in your eyes. It's like no one ever actually gets hurt.
It's very like Looney Tunes cartoonish presentation of like this, like kind of like upsetting like events, this battle and these like situations. You're just like, oh God. I mean,
none of the Greek or Roman myths, they're all dark and gross.
Sure.
I mean, even if you read the real story of Hercules, and I think that they glossed this over in the Hercules show, but his whole thing is that he's seeking redemption because he killed his wife and his children.
Oh.
Because Hera put a spell on him, blah, blah, blah. But he like murdered his kids.
That's all the Disney movies are kind of the same thing. You know, like the Disneyfication, it's like they just take all of the old fairy tales. And
the Grimm's fairy tales where it's like the Little Mermaid, she dies in the end. She dies. Yeah, she dies.
I think she gets her tongue cut off too.
Right.
Have you seen the trailer for Cruella?
Oh, of course I have. And it is, I don't have much to say besides like.
What are they trying to say about this character that just wants to kill dogs? Like what point are they trying to make?
It's like, they're like, okay, the Joker worked. So why don't we make the Joker, but for Cruella? Like, not every character needs to like have a redemptive backstory or something. Like, I don't need this dog killing lady who loves furs to be like, there's like justification because she's a mental illness or something. Like, I don't need it.
It's like simultaneously too dark and too shallow at the same time.
Exactly.
She's too dark to be redeemed, but also wanting to kill dogs is also too stupid to be redeemed.
Correct. It's just like, who cares? Like, what? Like, this is just bananas. I mean, it's just bananas that they would try to do this with like Cruella de Vil, who, by the way, like is a cool character. I don't need to know why Cruella de Vil kills dogs.
However, I would be interested in a Madame Medusa backstory.
Who's Madame Medusa?
The bad lady from The Rescuers.
Oh, I guess. Okay.
A young girl in New Orleans looking for diamonds in a cave.
Rachel.
Got two little pet alligators in her purse.
Those are great accessories. She was ahead of her time, so love it.
You know, Ursula, the sea witch, had two electric eels named Flotsam and Jetsam.
That's correct.
That was a retread because Madame Medusa had two alligators named Brutus and Nero.
Brutus and Nero.
Roman names.
I mean, that would figure into Xena for sure. Like, they just took any names. They were like, okay, is it Norse mythology? Sure, throw it in there. Indian, Hindu? Yep, it's in here too.
What do you think? Do you bet yes or no that Thor ever appeared on Xena?
I'm going to say yes. I know Loki did. Here's what I was obsessing over. It's called Xena Warrior Princess. Okay, but her mom runs a bar.
It's a good point.
Princess, like a Jewish American princess.
Like, is that a nickname? Like, it's like she's a princess because she's a lady. But like, I really want to know. It's like, is she of royal blood?
Well, because She-Ra is royalty, right?
Correct. And I looked it up, and I was just like, am I the only person who cares about this? I was like, who is Xena's dad? Is he a king?
Or while she was warrioring, like, did she get hitched to a warrior king?
A warrior prince.
Oh, I guess it would have to be warrior prince, right?
Correct.
Or can you become a princess by marriage?
Yes. I want to say yes. Yeah, I was just sort of like, okay, you're calling her a warrior princess. That has to mean that she is related to someone royal, correct? It seems like no one knows who her dad is. It really was getting me when we got to her mom at the bar. I was like, wait, this lady runs a bar?
Well, maybe we
There
just
are
don't
many
know.
answers online. Do you want to hear them?
Yes, please. Tell me.
Okay. Here's one from Reddit.
Okay.
We've seen that Xena's mother runs a tavern, so she's not a queen's daughter. Xena doesn't seem the type to take a vanity title, and if she did, I'd expect her to jump ahead to warrior queen. Come to think of it, Gabrielle has a more solid claim to the title of princess since she's Amazonian royalty by adoption. What gives? Someone said, one of the writers said in an interview that the title of warrior princess was given to her by the troops during her days as a prominent warlord.
Okay.
But then there's another one that said, Lao Ma gives Xena the metaphorical title warrior princess, intending that she'd be a major catalyst for change in the land.
I could have researched Xena for...
But it's a name that she
days.
takes on as part of her redemption, actually, when she was bad. So like this woman, Lao Ma, cares for Xena when she leaves the warlord or something, and then gives her that name. And
So take it up with Lao Ma.
I guess so. I mean, it's just odd to like have that in the title of the show. It just seems like princess. You know, words have meanings, everybody, okay?
Okay, and Draco is not the father of Solon. It's someone named Boreas.
And
Lao Ma is in China. Her army, she takes the army all the way to China.
It sounded like there was a lot of travel happening. And they were just like, we're in Greece, I guess. Like, the whole show is like, they're supposed to be in Greece. Drago and all of his like guys are just like Mad Max rejects with these like mohawks.
He is a native of New Zealand, so he's probably Maori, which I was excited about.
I do like that they just obviously did not care.
Colorblind casting before its time.
Yes, they obviously just did not care about, but like it was hard to figure out what they did care about. Like in regards to making this show, it's like, okay, so you don't really care about any sort of authenticity or like world. The world is just such a mess. You know, it's like, it's Greece, but it's also everything. It's everything.
I think they would just kind of go with an imaginary world, you know, like Beastmaster. Just, you know, like why maybe they just didn't have enough imagination to come up with new names for gods. So they're
right. I
pulling
guess
from the library.
So I really liked Xena's like little circle weapon.
Yes.
The chakram, that's from the Indian subcontinent. It just sounded like the creator of the show saw it. He was like researching weapons. He was like, this one's really cool. I mean, I do think it's much cooler than like, let's say, I don't know, Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. I mean, it's just, at least it's badass. She like cuts people's heads off with it. And it's like a boomerang. It's cool.
Yeah, I'd totally get one.
I would cut myself on that though. Is that it all blade all the way around? Like, how do you hold that thing?
It's a great question.
It is a good question.
Did she have some other weapon too that was like some sort of glorified rock that swung?
Yeah, she had a lot of stuff. Like, I think she had a sword too.
To answer your question, what did they care about? What did they care about? They cared about presenting a strong female lead with lesbian undertones, violence for the kids.
That's true. And it's also just like so much action that it remains entertaining even if if it's being dubbed. I mean,
you can imagine watching it in another language and not missing a beat.
Correct. And
Yeah.
it seemed dubbed even in English.
Watch it with subtitles and it'll feel higher quality.
Oh, this is a foreign film. I understand. Okay.
You're like, all right.
I have to change my cultural, I have to shift. This is a different culture. You know, they have different standards than us.
But I do have a story from high school related to discovering the relationship between Xena and Gabrielle. So I went on a trip to the Big Apple, as New Yorkers like to call it.
Stop bragging.
We went on a drama club trip. So
Ooh.
a cool crew. And we were just, we were putzing around Greenwich Village, went into a gift shop with my friend Ashley. We're curious about why there was so much merchandise with Xena and Gabrielle on it. We figured it out. We put two and two together and we're like, oh, it had never occurred to us. But then so I did some research. I don't know if I was able to look this up on the internet at the time or how I figured it out, but it was like the fans had gotten so into their relationship and it started writing fan fiction that the writers were like, yeah, let's go with it. But they never were very overt with it. They kept it.
That's what it seemed like to me. It was just like sort of an after the fact or like a fandom sort of like wanting. But I guess like the last episode involves Gabrielle giving her mouth to mouth. And I think it was just like the writers being, here's a little something, you know?
You're welcome, fans.
Right. It just like kind of like reminds me of like the shipping fandom for like X-Files where like you could tell like episodes where they're like, okay, so Scully's in a bubble bath and she's on the phone with Mulder. Maybe like the viewers will put it together in their mind. Like we're not actually like doing anything really overt with the characters for like their relationship to do anything, but like we're titillating you in this way. Like we're teasing it. Like maybe look at her little like knee surrounded by bubbles and she's talking in a sultry fashion to Mulder over the phone.
There is some dark stuff that happens in their relationship. Do you want to hear about it later?
Sure. Xena and Gabrielle?
Yeah. So there's references to them becoming soulmates.
Okay.
Gabrielle and Xena become best friends, soulmates, and indeed constant companions over the many adventures that follow. Each of the women learns from the other. Gabrielle becomes a warrior on behalf of good, not evil, while Xena develops a softer, more loving personality to balance her warrior's heart. Xena's subsequent life is marred by many tragedies. Her son Solon, who never came to know her as his mother, is killed by Hope, Gabrielle's demonic child.
Yeah, I heard about
Callisto.
I read that, which is crazy.
I remember Hope. I remember she this is also totally my wheelhouse. Baby that grows up really fast. I'm for it. After this, Gabrielle, consumed with grief, journeys to stay with the Amazons. Xena, in turn, locates her and tries to take Gabrielle's life by throwing her over a cliff while she is in a weakened state. Xena fails in doing this, and subsequently both women reconcile with the help of the spirit of Xena's son, Solon. Specifically, Solon creates the land of Eleusia, wherein, through music, both women express... Oh, this must be a musical episode. Both women express their grief and anger, not so much with each other, but with the traumas they have endured.
Yeah, I read that Xena started the musical episode trend of shows that aren't musicals.
Ooh.
And like this episode... sounds amazing because it's called The Bittersweet. It was in season 3 and the scenes and costumes are based on tarot cards.
Wait, they already have like grown children by season 3?
I guess so. I mean, it seems like Xena plays fast and loose with literally everything. So, I mean, why wouldn't they have grown children by season 3? For sure.
And also child actors, boring. Let's grow them up.
Yeah, you gotta grow them up. You
don't want that kid that was in The Walking Dead, and just watching him slowly go through puberty. Like, what a nightmare.
Oh God. Yeah, no one wants that. You want to like introduce the baby and then you come back the next season, he's 6 years old. They did it on Family Ties. They did it on
Imagine being on a TV show when your breasts are coming in.
No. Ask Maya Bialik about that. I think that's what I was saying.
That's what the vests were for.
Yes, to hide her blossoming.
I've been very excited to showcase my blossoming, I think, because I remember in like 5th grade when I just started to get some little pops, I would wear bodysuits.
Oh, yeah.
Accentuate. And I wasn't big enough to have a bra or anything, but if you put a skin tight bodysuit on my 5th grade body,
Yeah, a lovely lady lumps.
You could not ignore.
You're like, I am going to show this off. Look what I got. I don't think I really cared about getting boobs, except that I did think that for some reason in my head, I was like, if I sleep on my back, I will grow boobs. And if I sleep on my stomach, they'll just get tamped down. But I just remember in like, I think 6th grade, we had gym class where we had to change for gym class. And the beginning of the semester, you know, it's like new. It's like the first time I've had to change in front of like a bunch of like other kids. And everyone else had like bras, training bras, and I didn't. And I was like, oh no, I gotta fix this. I can't be the only one who's like naked all the way. They all thought I was weird because, and I was like, there was nothing there, but just the absence of the bra or like the idea of a bra was scandalous to everybody.
I had a similar experience in the locker room when I noticed that all the other girls had underwear that looked like age appropriate. And I was still wearing like my Winnie the Pooh underwear that were at that point just like ripped to shreds.
Yes. That was when I was really introduced to Bath and Body Works lotion. That my middle school gym locker was just, it reeked of like that peach lotion. And it like, I still cannot smell peaches without thinking of 13-year-old girls.
We haven't done any of our segments.
Oh yeah, that's right. What is the most 90s thing? To me, it was just the bangs, but also feminism. Okay, we've got this strong lady, and then we've got Gabrielle, who like is aspiring to be a strong lady. I mean, everything that Gabrielle said in the first episode was just like, you can't tell me what to do. I've got like dreams, and that's why I liked her. But
the riot girls of ancient Greece.
That's right. That's right.
But it's very 90s feminism too, in that it's like, you know, they're both white ladies.
Correct.
No intersectional feminism happening. Maybe with some of the warlords, you know, but like
that's but
yeah, it's a very particular style of feminism that I feel like I was brought up on, and you know, now we're the old ladies that have to like adapt to new feminism. Like, oh, okay,
you're like, yeah, I guess
this is third wave.
It's a start. It's a start. It was 1995 or whenever. So yeah. I mean, it's a start.
I don't really have anything more 90s than that.
I mean, and just
bad special effects.
Bad special effects. I mean, it's just every other scene is just an elaborate B-movie quality.
Like bad explosions to the side happening. Like, yes. Oh, why did that happen?
And everyone's just like flipping upside down 100 times, like always.
Like the Cyclops, that's great.
I thought the Cyclops was great. That guy was gross looking, but it was also funny.
Accent corner, everyone's got crazy accents because they're all doing really bad American accents, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
Gabrielle, it was hard to believe that actress actually is American because she talks so strangely.
Again, that's what I think was like tripping me up about like really going all in on loving Gabrielle. I was just like, she's so like, she just has a weird affect. It just seemed like she was like making weird choices all over the place. But
I think they just chose American probably because they had a variety of accents, and that's like everybody thought that was the easiest to do. Because I would think maybe like a generic British would have been more appropriate. Well, doesn't that seem like you should have just fallen into the British accent? It's old timey.
I mean, yeah, again, is this Greece? What's so crazy about Xena to me is that there's so many things about it that are bad, but like somehow it all mixes together and makes it good. Like in this way that's like, this is really charming and I'm liking it, you know, like I'm having fun watching it, even though it's bad, you know.
Very enjoyable. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Also, there just wasn't like anything else happening like that at the time. So it filled a real need that I felt.
Correct. That's exactly what I felt. I was just like, you know, I can't even assess this objectively because there are all of these elements that are like they clearly didn't even care about. You can tell that production did not have a discussion about where they even were. You know, like where this world was.
They were in Schmetalopolis, obviously. They said they were going to Schmetalopolis.
Schmetalopolis. Yeah, of course. The absence of caring almost made it fun.
I think that with a lot of the shows we've talked about, the drama shows, I've liked, there's been a balance of the long arc stories and then the individual show storylines that just are for each episode.
Right.
when I like the long-term story and I like the show-by-show stories, I'm happy. And I think that with Xena, that's the part that loses me, where I like the long-term arcs, especially with the demonic babies and immaculate conceptions and whatever. And when Ares shows up and Callisto and all that stuff, I do not like the story of the week because it's always some sort of like very boring morality tale.
And it's also very surface level, and you don't really get, like, it's fun to watch, but you're not really invested.
Also, everybody's so unattractive. I mean,
The bangs.
No, Lucy Lawless is, I think, gorgeous.
I mean, all the people that just show up week to week. I mean, there's like 200,000 people in New Zealand. They didn't have a lot to pick from.
I heard that though, like Bruce Campbell shows up later because it's executive produced by Sam Raimi. So his brother Ted Raimi like comes in as a character. Joxer, yeah, and then
in my memory, Joxer wears glasses, which makes no sense. And then I googled it, and I couldn't find any pictures of Joxer wearing glasses. So maybe that's just. It's weird because I haven't seen him in anything else. Where would I have imagined he was wearing glasses?
I don't know. Yeah, you're in your dreams, Rachel. You're just dreaming about Joxer.
Oh, imagine if Xena was in Roar.
I was actually thinking about Xena in comparison to Roar, and Roar does seem like the prestige version of Xena, which is so funny to me because it's hilarious to me that the budget version of this kind of idea was the wild success, and Roar, which does in comparison seems like much more thought out, much more like serious. People were like, I don't want serious, I want to have fun. And
well, maybe if it had been in syndication, they would have sold it.
Maybe. But I also just think I think Xena succeeds because it's very short attention span and very like just fun. Like it's just a very light entertainment, and it's like really easy to watch, especially if you're just like catching it like while you're flipping through.
It really was its strength. Like the fact that, like, I don't know if something like that could succeed now.
No.
When you are selecting a show that you want to get obsessed with. Everybody has to be obsessed with the show now. But before, it was just like whatever happened to be on that was more interesting than whatever else was on at that exact moment.
Right.
And usually that was, for me, like just turning on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Right. Yeah, I can't imagine binging Xena. Like, I liked watching one episode, but I feel like if they're all like that, it would get really boring really fast.
They are. I'm wondering if there's anything else on the air anymore that is this poor quality. Like, is it this poor quality because this is early days special effects, or do we have a higher bar now?
Technology in general has gotten better, but as Valerie knows, I have really bad taste in film and television. So I watched like 10 minutes of a lot of stuff. I watch a lot of trailers. Like I'll spend a half hour just watching trailers, and then I'll watch like 5 minutes of a lot of bad shows. And I watch a lot of foreign shows, like TV shows that are foreign too. And there's some bad stuff out there. And especially if you're watching it dubbed, it gives it more of this effect.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like there are shoddy shows still out there.
There's definitely a lot of like Hallmark quality rom-coms still out there.
Yeah.
The cheapest thing I've ever seen are those shows that are on like the TV station ID. And it's like a true story of a man who killed his wife.
Yeah.
Because a friend of mine, they filmed one of those in her house, her parents' house.
Oh, wow.
They just rent out people's like Airbnbs in people's houses, and it's just like an empty, it's just like very poorly staged, and there's no personal effects whatsoever in the house, and they just film the show. Do we have a Mad Magazine?
I have a couple. Xena, warning, stinkness.
I'm new to this segment.
Yeah, it's just like a Mad Magazine, like a parody title for it, and it has to imply that it's bad. And my other option is Xena, what's her name, Dingus? It was a hard one to parody.
This Mad Magazine segment seems for a very niche audience. But I guess your show is for everyone.
That's true. But I mean, like, people who enjoy puns, like a niche audience? I don't think so. Everyone loves puns. I mean, the whole audience for Will and Grace, they love a pun. I do like Xena, warning, stinkness. Like, I put like two.
How about xenophobia? And everyone's.
Oh, that's good.
That is good. That's
the
good.
stinkness could have a nice illustration accompanying it.
Like stink lines,
Stink cups. like so.
Oh yeah, just like P.U. This show stinks. Like we got it. Okay, we got it.
What you're watching?
Yeah, what are you watching, Susie? Besides
What
like
am I
a
watching?
bunch of trailers.
So we just finished WandaVision. Shows I watch with my husband are usually compromises. So, you know,
Yeah.
the new show with like Captain America, but it's not, it's what is he, Falcon? Whatever. Falcon and Winter Soldier.
No, Susie, you're watching too many Marvel things.
It's pretty good.
Bah.
No, it's okay. But I'm trying to think if I'm actually watching anything that I'm enjoying.
See, that's revealing. That comment is revealing.
I picked up a lot of reading in this last year because I just, you know, I really like to dive deep into really embarrassing and cringy romantic comedies, but I have to be by myself. I tried to watch the new Miranda July movie, but I fell asleep and then I'd already paid for it and it expired.
Oh no!
I have to pay again. What a nightmare. Oh, I have been watching, I guess I just finished Upload.
Oh, was that good?
I liked it. And I don't like Parks and Rec. I don't like The American Office. I don't like anything that's shot in the style of that guy, that other stuff he's done. But this is not shot that way.
Oh, good.
And so I found it much more enjoyable. Plus, I love it because it's like, you know, kind of that future dystopian thing that Black Mirror's got. But, you know, you're not watching anybody like have sex with a pig while crying. So it's like, it's much more lighthearted and enjoyable.
I got a few episodes into that and I dropped it because it reminded me too much of The Good Place, and I
feel like TV is having an existential crisis right now. Like every show is about death or like the afterlife. Here's another comedic take on like being dead.
Well, I can't wait to find out how they're going to make the last season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine funny.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys like cops?
It's like, not anymore. Like we barely did before, and now we really don't like cops.
They can be goofballs too.
Maybe it could be just like the last
cops who love pranks.
Yeah. Oh, what a bunch of wiseacres.
I have been watching Made for Love on HBO Max, and it's great.
Is it good? Ooh, I gotta watch that.
And it's short.
Okay.
They're half-hour episodes.
Okay, I can watch that.
I think there's only 8 or 9 of them total.
I watched I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
I saw that. I loved it.
Yeah, it was good. I had read the book last year, and I really enjoyed the book. There's a lot of details about that
Oof.
It's just like a really hard to take, you know, you're just like, oh God.
Do you think that they would have caught him without her, or do you think she brought attention to the case?
See, that's a hard thing for me to say because it is weird. Okay, so Michelle McNamara, who wrote the book I'll Be Gone in the Dark, she died 2 years before they actually caught him. What I thought was interesting is that the person who actually ended up being the culprit, the Golden State Killer, was not on anybody's list. All of these obsessive people who had been spending years and years trying to crack this case, this guy did not show up on anyone's list. But I think that she amplified the idea of this guy. Like, this is solvable. We need to solve the case. And then she also had, like, you know, ideas about how they would do it. She's on record of saying, you know, 23andMe is going to be instrumental in solving these types of cases, which it ended up being. So
this is the first true crime documentary where I didn't just stop halfway through and Google it. Like, who did it? I'm not watching 5 more hours of this.
Well, and I think it is because it's the story of the crimes, but it's also the story of her as well. And that's interesting as well, because it's almost like her experience writing that book is its own true crime situation.
It made me terrified of Ambien.
Yes.
I can understand how, like, I mean, Heath Ledger too, kind of, but
that's
get all mixed up with these drugs. And
that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching this, where it's like, this is a person who got too into that whatever project they were working on, and it just kind of took over their lives, and like they couldn't sleep, and then they were trying to remedy that situation, and then it just like it overwhelmed them. And
having insomnia is one of my greatest fears, because I've gone through horrible sleep deprivation with 2 children, but in those instances I can fall asleep. But if I couldn't fall asleep and I was tired, Oh, it makes me feel sick thinking about it. Like I would take any drug. That would make me feel
I feel the same way, but about like every time I get a twinge in my neck, I feel like, oh, if I always had a twinge in my neck, how could I live?
I like how that's your worst nightmare.
I know it's not my worst nightmare,
neck.
but like I think it really illustrates how weak I am. That like I'm just like, oh, I have a crick in my neck, and like if this lasted forever, what would I do?
I was like, I can relate to the sleep thing. I'm the same way. If I don't get enough sleep for whatever reason, if I usually sleep well. So when I don't, I'm just like, oh. The next day. But I also always have twinges in my neck, so I don't fear them.
I guess I don't fear them. I just don't. Whenever I hear about someone who has developed an addiction to painkillers because they have chronic pain, I'm like, yeah, of course they did. What else are they supposed to do? Like,
they're also highly addictive, and doctors don't tell you that.
Correct. They're like, yeah, just take this. Just take some fentanyl.
Pile them on. If you start to lose the effects, just come get a higher dose. And, I'm on amitriptyline for my migraines, and I realized if I don't take one, if I forget to take it the night before, I just have vertigo the next day. So I'm addicted.
Oh my God. All right. You're going to have to wean yourself up. You're going to have to be like, woo, woo.
I think we've said everything there is to say about Xena.
I guess they were going to do like a Xena like reboot or something, and it fell apart. Like in 2017, they're like, Xena's coming back. And then like the producer or like the writer of the show left because of creative differences. I was like, what were they trying to do with Xena? That was like, can you imagine having artistic integrity related to this show?
Maybe it was just like one's like, hey, why is she a princess? We have to write a backstory that explains why she's a princess.
He's like, no, I won't do it. The reboot person was like, well, how about you care about any part of this? And he's like, no, I only care about the Xena yet. Yes.
This has been Sliders and Wings with Val and Rachel. Thank you to our special guest, Farts Magoof.
That's right, aka Susie Underwood. This has been fun. All right, good night, everybody.